welcome to the Bluebird Bookshelf. My name is Kelly. I am the creator and the curator of all the books that you'll find here on the Bluebird Bookshelf. If you're here, you're probably wondering, what is the Bluebird Bookshelf? How does it work? What is it all about? Which are all outstanding questions, and I can't wait to dive in with you. So I am a former teacher. My background is in early childhood education, and I taught elementary school. I taught kindergarten, first, second, and 1 year of third grade. And then after about 7 years of that, I moved up and I taught high school English. So when I was an elementary school teacher, I noticed that my students kind of walked around with this low level of anxiety. They kind of always had their fist up in a way. And so I started doing some research on what was causing that. I didn't remember feeling that way when I was a child, and so I was wondering if anything had changed that would make kids feel that way today. Sure enough, it has. What psychologists have discovered is that children are lacking some boundaries that we used to have set in place, and whether you agree with that being good or bad, the outcome of the lack of boundaries in terms of their cognition is creating a lot of anxiety. And I noticed that a lot in the books that they would bring back from the media center. And you would think a kid's library in an elementary school would be full of wholesome stories, happy stories. You would think that they wouldn't check anything out at that library that might make parents feel kind of like, oh my goodness, what is that book doing in the library? But that's not the case, actually. I worked in several different schools, wonderful schools, by the way, great schools, I love them all. But there were times when kids would come back to the library where I would think, oh my goodness, I wonder if your mom is going to have a question about where you got that book or who helped you pick that book out. Because it may have had what I consider to be a topic that a parent might like to have a heads up about before their kid brought it home in a book, And so I created this little space in my classroom. I had this big bright blue bookshelf, and I called it my Bluebird Bookshelf. I explained to the kids that bluebirds are a symbol of happiness, and so on that shelf, all they would find there were books that would make them happy. They could find books that would cheer them up, or books that would encourage them or comfort them. But basically on the bookshelf, I knew in my mind that no book there would have anything in it that I felt like a parent, no matter what they believed religiously or what they believed politically or what they believed philosophically, that no matter what any parent believed, that the books on that bookshelf would be wholesome and happy and pure and innocent. And so that I felt safe and the kids felt safe and the parents would feel safe just letting that book be read, whether it was with a parent or without a parent. I had some requirements for what goes on the Bluebird Bookshelf. Number one is they have to be wholesome. Like I said, they can't have any topics that challenge existing beliefs. I felt like as a teacher, it wasn't my place to change the way that a parent was bringing up their child or to influence the way that a child's mind was developing. And I felt like that place belonged with the parent, not with the teacher, not with the school. So I made sure that every book on the Bluebird Bookshelf didn't have anything in it that would challenge the beliefs that the parents had already established or had in place. There are plenty of places on the internet where you can find books that will help you talk about difficult concepts, but the Bluebird Bookshelf isn't that place. And so I just made sure that all the books there were generally wholesome and widely accepted as pure and innocent and good, no matter what I believe or what, they're just wholesome and good. No subtleties, no innuendos, no politics, nothing like that. So that's the first requirement. All the books on the Bluebird Bookshelf have to fall into that category of wholesome and generally accepted as good and wholesome and pure and innocent. The second thing, they have to be fun and happy. They can't be boring. There are so many books out there that are really wholesome and really boring. So that can't happen either. These books have to be wholesome and pure and happy, and they have to be engaging. And then the third quality that books on the Bluebird Bookshelf is that they have to have something about them that contributes to literacy in some way. So whatever the case may be, there has to be some kind of brain science involved, or book science as it's called, that will help the child reading it to become a better reader in some way. So you can imagine that's not really an easy task to find books that fall into all three categories. So when I was teaching elementary school, the Bluebird Bookshelf was a really popular place for kids to go to get books I felt confident and comfortable with them taking them to their seats or checking them out and taking them home. I never felt like a parent was going to call me and say, like, why did you let my kid check this book out? I'm not ready to talk to them about this topic yet. So the Bluebird Bookshelf was just a highly curated place in my classroom where kids could find, books that were safe and happy and wholesome. But when I went to high school, when I went up to teach high school, it kind of died. I mean, high school kids, they're involved in all kinds of things, and they know a whole lot more about life in the world than little kids do. And so I just kind of chalked it up to being a little kid thing until one day I wanted to bring back reading novels. I don't know if you have high school kids, but reading novels is not really a popular pastime in English or reading anymore. And so I was, I love reading, and so I was going to bring back reading books. So I went to the library. The media specialist brought me an entire set. We're talking 200 novels, brand new, never been opened. They made that really satisfying crack when you open them, at first brand new book. And I was a rookie high school teacher at the time. I just assumed if the school district had approved a book and bought the book and brought the book to my classroom, that it would be like a school approved book. Totally fine, right? And I didn't read it ahead of time. The book was called 1,000 Splendid Suns. By the way, if you're looking for a novel that you are going to be gripped by, that's going to make you cry and make you happy and sad, and you will not be able to put this book down, that is the book for you. But there is a caveat. It's got some really detailed things in it. So I'll give you an example. So by chapter 7, my students were already hooked, and they were so excited because many of them felt like they didn't like to read, but this book they loved. And so we got to chapter 7, and there was a scene where there were multiple wives of this one man. Afghanistan in the 60s and 70s is the setting, so it's kind of was very typical there. But one of the wives had become pregnant, and she didn't want to have that child, and so the other wife was helping her to take care of that issue. And it was extremely graphic, and I was like, close the book. We're not reading anymore. You guys are 14 and 15 years old. I don't think that this graphic description of what's happening is appropriate for to be reading at school. I mean, I felt like if I had gone home and told my parents that, my mom and dad would have said, what is your teacher reading to you at school? They would not have been okay with that. So I didn't want to be the teacher that was so I immediately went to the librarian, and I was like, do you know what's in this book? And she said, isn't it beautiful? It's the most lovely book. And I was so surprised that people that were choosing literature for kids were choosing things that weren't necessarily things that parents would be ready for their child to be exposed to without them around. And so I brought the Bluebird Bookshelf back in high school. Not in so many words, but I had a selection of books that kids could read that didn't have, high school kids are high school kids, and they can get involved in whatever they want to get involved in. I just didn't feel like, again, it was my place as the teacher to be introducing them to things that their parents might not be ready for them to know about. So the Bluebird Bookshelf came back to high school, and I don't know, it seems like a growing issue. I thought about bringing the Bluebird Bookshelf to life on the internet for other moms or teachers out there who might be looking for similar types of stories and having a hard time finding those things. For example, a few weeks ago, I spent 4 hours in a big box bookstore chain looking for books to read on my channel, and I came home with only 4 books after 4 hours of kind of digging through things that I felt like were appropriate. So let me tell you a little bit about what I feel like is appropriate. Wholesome, happy, kind, engaging, something that has some element of goodness to it when it comes to literacy, and that is what the Bluebird Bookshelf is. I'm not teaching anymore. I'm doing something else, but these are some of the reasons why I left the classroom. Maybe I'll do another video on that if you're interested in knowing about it. But mostly I just wanted to explain what the Bluebird Bookshelf is and what you can find here. So on my channel, all the books that I'm going to recommend to you are things that I personally would read to my own family or that I would feel comfortable giving as a gift. I hope that this is a place where you can go when you need rest and you need your child to be engaged, or like your child to be engaged in something good and wholesome, that you don't have to be tuned into every minute, every second to make sure they're not learning something on YouTube that you don't want them to know about. Maybe you need a shower, maybe you need to take a call, maybe you need to do a little work, and you want to feel comfortable putting something up on TV that isn't going to, that's going to be like wholesome and happy and helpful. So you can feel safe doing that here on this channel. I hope that it's helpful for you. I hope that it's something that brings your family joy. I hope that it takes a burden off of your shoulder when it comes to finding quality books to put on your child's bookshelf, to read to them. I hope that it's fun and happy, and it's just a really great space for you. And I hope, more than anything, I hope that it lifts a burden off of you. I hope that it lifts the mom guilt about needing your child to be doing something good all the time. You can play these videos in the car. If you're driving on the road, you can listen to these stories, and you can think about something else because you don't have to be dialed in to make sure that what is playing is wholesome and happy, because I've already vetted it for you. I hope that it helps you. And if you have any recommendations or suggestions, or if there are any books you want me to check out for you, you can always leave me a comment or let me know. I hope to see you soon. Bye.